Yo, it's your host, Rizari Doug Sayut. And today we're going to be talking about Israel Adesanya, ENFP, versus his nemesis, John Jones, who I classify as ISTP. So in this video, this is what we're going to be talking about. So if you're interested in MBTI psychology and you're interested in a fight game, do stick around because that's what we're going to be talking about in this video. Let's go. So if you're new to this channel, like I said, I'm Douglas, also known as Doug Science. We're going to have a little bit of a discussion about. I really love the fight game. I love MMA. I love boxing, and I really love MBTI psychology. Those that are new here, and I know you probably are more of an avid, you're probably more into psychology. Please stick around. This is probably the first video that you're watching of me. If you watch this video and you're convinced that I do know what I'm talking about in MBTI and you do like the fight game, please stick around. But if you've watched this video and you figure out that he doesn't really know what he's talking about, it's all good. You don't have to watch anymore. But please, this is going to be a very, very delicious discussion. I don't really get to talk to many people about both aspects, the fight game and the psychology part of it. Of course, there's more to psychology than MBTI. MBTI is just literally one way of looking at things. But I really, really enjoy understanding people's cognitive functions and see their interactions with each other. So this series that we're going to do is about that. And yeah, without further ado, let's get to it. So, Israel Adesanya's nemesis, John Jones. These guys are like the nemesis from afar. It's like two baddies, two bosses, like seeing each other from a distance, and like they know they're getting closer and closer to each other. And one day they may clash. And I'm really looking forward to Izzy and John Jones. Izzy's next fight, I know, is against Jan Bolokovic. Hey, I probably butchered that name, but I'm really looking forward to seeing this fight. And John Jones going up to heavyweight. I think it's a very, very beautiful landscape at the moment. Let's just see both of them moving up weight. Let's see how they can do. But I want to speak about both of them specifically. So I think Israel Adesanya is an ENFP. I really do think that he's an ENFP because some people from the get-go may just look at him and think that he's not, maybe. But when I look at him and see how he thinks and how he talks and stuff, he definitely comes across comes across as an ENFP. The way his mannerisms, the way he talks, and those that don't know, ENFP is one of the 16 personality types, which is in the MBTI. But I like to also look more at the cognitive functions under those letters. So an ENFP, and I believe that John Jones is an ISTP. A lot of people just would say definitely ISTP. Some may say he's an ESTP, but no. John Jones is definitely an ISTP. But let's go down. Maybe some people don't know what this means and how does this affect their fight game. We'll touch on that. So the ENFP, Israel Adesanya, basically it's extroverted, intuition, feeling, and perceiving. So his cognitive stack, basically, he's obviously lead NE, lead extroverted intuition. So he likes to, someone that has a lead extroverted intuition likes to see the patterns between things. They're very good at seeing the patterns, and that could give them a witty edge a wittiness about them if they're able to hone it, right? And he has FI. His second function is FI, introverted feeling. So the reason why I believe that he's ENFP, some people may think that ENFPs may not be good at sports, but that's a misconception from my understanding. Anybody, any personality type can be good at any type of sport. Some personality type may have more of an affinity to doing sports, an affinity to even pick up sports, but every personality type can be successful in any given sport. Of course, they may need to have other attributes, physical attributes, other factors that fit into place for them to become good. But usually people think that a sport like fighting sports is dominated by ESTPs, ISTPs, and it's true. Like I said, they have more of an affinity to pick it up. But an ENFP, if their FI has picked up martial arts as a value, as a seen value from a very young age, then the likelihood of them beating on their craft, beating on their craft in order to become great is highly likely and highly possible. And it happens. And looking at him, he loves his anime. Izzy Adesanya loves his anime, Naruto. He loves all of it, and he loves fighting games and stuff like that. So all of that has synced into his FI. And those fighting games and anime, they have real fighting in them, the real like martial arts. They speak about them. So that I feel like as an ENFP, he's connected to that martial arts aspect of it. And with his NE, his lead extroverted intuition, that's what gives him his creativity as a fighter. He's very, very creative. And because he has beaten on his craft for years and years and years, he can rely on knowing that technique, having those techniques and being creative with it with his lead extroverted intuition. So, and because he loves these things, the way he speaks, he does come across as ENFP. If you can compare him to Peter Parker from Spider-Man: Homecoming, the new Peter Parker is definitely ENFP. The way he speaks and stuff, just look at the contrast with Israel Adesanya. Of course, Israel's a little bit different, it's a bit more grittier than Peter Parker and Spider-Man, but they have that same wittiness. Other people that are into MBTI, maybe you guys can get a bit deeper on this aspect of it. I'm looking forward to watching your videos and listen to what you got to say, because I love discussions like this. So if you look at Peter Parker and Israel Adesanya, you see similarities in the way they speak, the way they look at things. And yeah, so I think Israel Adesanya is definitely an ENFP. And how does that give him any edge as a fighter? Um, Definitely with his creativity and his lead extroverted in his third function is lead uh, extroverted thinking. That is being able to be in a physical world, and he's very good at speaking. He's very good. Lead extroverted thinking is very good at speaking. Um, Structurally, like very, very good. And ESTPs are very, very good at that too. But you can definitely see a difference between an ENFP and ESTP. Conor McGregor is iconically an ESTP. Iconic. Extroverted, extroverted sensing and introverted thinking. He has extroverted sensing as his first function, and second function is extrovert and introverted thinking. Extroverted sensing, they love like the physical world. They love to see the sense. The more they can become more grounded easier. And that's one of the challenge with ENFP. Sometimes they may have challenge of becoming in the moment. But I feel like Israel Adesanya has overcome his challenges, those potential challenges that ENFP may have. And once you solve the problem and you've got the formula, you've solved the problem, you've got a formula. Because like I think he really enjoys the martial arts of things, and he's understood how to stay in the moment, bring himself back into the moment, and the things that he loves, um, the Naruto, all of this fighting stuff, they've helped him basically sink that into the real world. So he's allowed his imagination and the real world to sync very simultaneously, bringing him into flow state, especially when he's in a fight. So he's done it very, very well and brought his imagination into the real world instead of him going out into his imaginary world and leaving his body behind, as some ENFPs can do, and INFPs and all of the lead extrovert intuitions can do. But he's able to bring it in sync into the real world, bringing his imagination, that creativity with his words, creativity with his movements, brought it into the real world, and he's basically well-rounded himself. And yeah, I don't want to go too much into details. I want other people to touch on this, even like clips of videos. I may even try compare clips of videos together to show you um, why he is ENFP. But if anybody else does it, shout me out too, because I want to watch it. So yeah, Israel's son is definitely ENFP, definitely. And ENFPs come in all shapes and sizes. That's why sometimes it's hard to identify ENFPs. When you listen to them, look clearly, you can see. Don't look at ENFP for their weaknesses. Look at them for their cognitive strength, because a lot of ENFPs, a lot of people can overcome their weaknesses in a way that they've overcome it, and they put things into place to help them continue to overcome it. So if you look at someone to try and see them for their weaknesses, you may not be able to see it that clearly. So that's what I would say about that. And his nemesis, his nemesis, John Jones. John Jones is one bad ass. He's a badass. John Jones, in my opinion, is a typical ISTP. Typical. I think he's just a typical ISTP. He has this wolf-like demeanor to him, and if you understand ISTPs, it makes sense. So ISTPs, their first function is introverted thinking. So he comes across as an introvert. People call ISTPs basically the efficient nerds. What they mean by efficient nerds or cool nerds is that they have the introverted thinking and stuff that nerds would have, but due to the other functions and them wanting to be more physical, they negate all the things that are associated to the stereotype of a nerd. They negate all that simply because of the other functions. But their lead introverted thinking is a thing where he is definitely lead. He definitely has it. If you look at his interview, even Chael Sonnen, many people in the fight game, if MMA guys will know, he pointed it out in one of his videos, saying how John Jones, the way he logically thought about himself, when he was younger, people used to think that he was a champion already. He's the greatest of all time. But he never thought of himself like that, because somebody had more wins than he did. I forgot the person's name. And he would always look at statistically like, though everybody knows and think that I'm better than this person, but I still haven't achieved what he has achieved yet. Or I'm close to him. Probably have 2 more fights, and then I'll reach him, and then 3 more fights, and I surpass him, and then I'll call myself. Then I can say that I am the greatest of all time, and you maintain that. Whereas other personality types will just say like, yes, they won't even look at the metrics like that. But the lead introverted thinking is like that. They're very, very logical. Very logical. His second function, like the thing about MBTI and these functions, when you put them together, they make something beautiful, different. So it's not easy to just keep just put in a box, but it's good to just talk about the cognitive functions. It's good. So his second function as an ISTP is extroverted sensing. So this is why this is a function that helps, like I said, ISTPs, ESTPs to come more into the present moment than other personality types, because extroverted sensing is in the moment thinking, is in the moment just bringing in all the senses. That's the almost part of the wolf-like aspect of ISTPs. They've got the lead introvert thinking, internal, and then the SC, they're always scanning out, they're bringing in the, they're very in the moment, very in the moment, extroverted sensing. And then you've got introverted intuition. This is where his creativity comes from. John Jones' creativity is more instinctual. It's like an instinct, a wolf's instinct. Both of them have it. Israel Adesanya and John Jones have it. But Israel has it as his first function. And like I said, Israel has dominated his senses. He's brought his senses in a way that his senses are there. He's able to hone that. And having his extroverted intuition, he's a bit more creative as an individual than John Jones is. John Jones' creativity comes in the form of manipulating his body, manipulating his martial arts. He's like an instinct. His introverted intuition, because it's his third function, it's like an instinct. So when he's in a fight game, because he's downloaded all the information by SC, extroverted sensing, and introverted thinking, he's piecing these things together. So when he's in the fight game and in the flow, he's able to do things just instinctually. People are like, how did John Jones do this? Like, how did this guy do that? So sometimes your cognitive functions can give you an advantage in certain regards. And both of them being prospecting, perceiving as their last function, it's not last function, but in the ENFP, ISTP, it just basically means that they both kind of like the chaos. They kind of like can ride with the chaos. But John Jones' last function is extroverted feeling. This makes it difficult. Extroverted feeling is being able to feel people, understand emotion, understand people, interpersonal relationships. John Jones doesn't do the best at understanding the vibes of people that well, and that's why they can become seem aloof, like in the younger days and stuff like that, because that's not their strength. But all of these weaknesses that everybody has, I'm going to add another point to it, and we'll come back to the two. I'm going to digress a little bit. Please, whoever's still watching, I love you. So, this bit I'm about to add here, though people may have weaknesses in the MBTI to talk about these weaknesses, but I believe that you can negate your weaknesses without you even knowing that you've negated your weaknesses. Because let's say you're connected to family members, friends, a society, a culture that can help you with your weakness, you can basically even transcend your weaknesses very, very earlier than maybe other people that have that same cognitive function. I believe that Israel Adesanya has overcome his not 100%. If I look at some of his interview, his introverted sensing, he's very disorganized and stuff like that. But he has mastered being organized with many different ways. He's got a manager to help him, because that help him with different things. Different cultures can help you craft, help you with those weaknesses. What I mean by this, if I digress too much, an introverted, someone that's maybe Ghanaian, an African culture is quite vibrant. If you know Africans, how they talk, their hands and everything, Africans are quite vibrant people. If you compare an introverted, an INFP Ghanaian to an INFP, someone that's from China, because Chinese culture sometimes is a bit more conservative. It's a bit more, conservative in mannerisms compared to African, which is more vibrant. An INFP Ghanaian compared to INFP Chinese, you would definitely see some differences. You would see some differences in many aspects because we interface with our culture, we interface with other different things, and they can help us or hinder us in certain ways. So in this case, an introvert, I've seen it in my own eyes to be honest, an introverted INFP Ghanaian seems just a bit more extroverted than the INFP Chinese. They just when you put them together, they just seem a lot more extroverted, a lot more outgoing, and that's because of the culture. Culture has its personality. That's something else. So let's put that over there. So yeah, so the clash of the ENFP, ISTP, John Jones, and Israel Adesanya. I think this fight is just going to be amazing. I would say that John Jones on paper would look like he has a little bit more edge to Israel Adesanya, but I think Israel Adesanya can channel like the ENFP's champion is not said for no reason. He's beaten on his craft for so long. He's able to draw in like energy, almost energy from nowhere to doing crazy things. ENFPs do best in uncharted territories. They're like a, a backed up lion, a lion backed up, and their introverted sensing becomes out there. So the reason why he's the way he's moving up to fight Jan, he just keeps moving up to fight these tougher guys. It's part of him getting into flow. The more challenging and crazy his opponents may seem, it gives him an edge. And also John Jones as well, like he really loves the martial arts. He really loves to learn different techniques and all of this, that wolf-like mentality. I don't know. I just know this fight is just gonna be really, really, really good. If you're asking me, who do I want to win? Ooh, uh, I'm gonna go closer to my boy Izzy. I want Izzy to win this fight. I love both of them, John Jones and Izzy. Uh, but I'm just edging a bit more to Izzy, wanting him to win. John Jones, dangerous opponent for Izzy, dangerous. But let's see how Izzy does with Jan. Let's see what it does. Okay, so I hope you guys like that video. Spoke a little bit about Israel Adesanya as an ENFP versus John Jones ISTP, and yeah, I hope you liked it. If you did like it, anybody out there liked it, please hit the like button and subscribe. Where we're going through different fighters, and we're going to see what their cognitive, their personality type is, speak about their interaction, how they interact, and maybe react to certain videos to just show you why their personality type is like that. So if you like MBTI personality test, personality type cognitive functions, and you like the fight game, subscribe and hit the like button. And yeah, have a comment, share your video if you made a video about any of this, and I would love to check it out. Next video, we're going to talk about Jake Paul. There's a video that we're going to speak about Conor McGregor. We're going to look at their videos. Conor McGregor and Floyd Mayweather. When they had their clash, Floyd Mayweather is a classic ESFP and Conor McGregor is a classic ESTP. People thought that they had the same personality. Very, very similar. But I want to show you that why Connor is classic ESTP and Floyd is ESFP. And we'll talk about that in the next video. So thank you guys for listening or watching. Yeah, until next time, stay curious, stay blessed. Peace out.